Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call.
Beth Waterman, Maya Lilly, Robert Brookshank, Kathy Del Tufa, and Michael Chiappa.
Yeah. Thank you. And we have a guest tonight, Andrew Messenger from Pine Hill. Did everyone receive a copy of the minutes?
Yes.
Were there any additions or corrections?
Thank you for correcting the spelling for me.
It's okay. If there are no additions or corrections, could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Angel. And a second? Yep. Maya seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you. Okay. Now, the next thing is our membership items. But actually, I think we'll let Andrew speak before we go through our accomplishments and our priorities for next year. At the town board meeting at the beginning of the month, there were several things that came up. And one of them was I made an announcement that if people wanted to suggest things for us to do, or you know, for our, if there were items that were important to them, that they should let me know. And I don't know if that's why Andrew is here, but anyway, Andrew can tell us why he's here.
I'm just here because I'm curious.
Oh, okay. Good. I did get, all right, when we get to the planning for next year, I did get one suggestion from the public. But first, we have the list of accomplishments, which I sent out to everyone today. And I just think it's pretty amazing what we've accomplished this year. And so for those people who are watching at home, I'll give you a quick version of it. We completed 2 reports that were necessary for climate smart community status, the Government Operations Community Action Plan and the Community Greenhouse Gas Inventory, which were both adopted by the town board in their January meeting. We won the Hudson Valley Regional Council Momentum Award again for the 2nd year in a row, and it's posted right up here on the wall.
Yay.
Yay. We held a very successful Earth Day celebration. In July, we had a tiffin distribution and outreach at the Phoenicia Farmers Market in conjunction with Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency. And in May, we had a collaborative clean energy expo with the Town of Olive CAC at the Visitor Center. And then some of us were in the 4th of July parade, Maya and Karen and Catherine. Yeah, I know, it was very hot. The compost program has collected 2,000 gallons of food waste. That's our program that started in January. So this is about, it translates to 3 cubic yards of compost, but it weighs 2.34 tons. So all of that is food waste that did not go to the landfill. Recently there's been several Conservation Advisory Committee members who've done the solar mapping project. Have you completed? I don't know what well, we can talk about that later. The NYSERDA community campaigns earned $112,500 for the town to purchase electric lawn equipment, 3 charging stations, an electric vehicle, and heat pumps for municipal buildings. We had a new member this year, Karen Lee, who's not here tonight, unfortunately, but will be back. And I wanted to thank especially our sponsors for Earth Day and our partners, the Phoenicia Playhouse and Pine Hill Community Center, our committee members and volunteers in the 4th of July parade, Joe Rotella and James Amenta for the compost program, Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency, Sophie Grant, and the Phoenicia Farmers Market for hosting the Tiffin program, Hudson Valley Regional Council, Eleanor Peck and Mina Viswanathan for their advice and guidance, and Peter DiSclafani and the Shandaken Town Board, especially Robert Drake, for their continuing support. Now, we've really had a very active and productive year. And in January, we're going to go shopping for an electric vehicle. Who knew? So those are our list of accomplishments. If anyone spotted something I forgot, please let me know. So our next agenda item is setting priorities for 2025. But before we start doing that, I forwarded an email from Ken Townsend to everyone, and it was his report. He's on the Woodstock CAC, and I just thought you might be interested in looking at it and seeing what he reports on. We don't really give any formal report like this to anyone, but it's an idea, possibly something. Shall we just run through the committee reports, because those are going to be quick before we start our priorities for 2025? What's the solar mapping update, Rob?
Well, I'll ask Catherine and Maya to join me in reporting. We completed a 4-session class. Each session was 1.5 to 2 hours. They were spaced about a week apart with a break for Thanksgiving. And in that, we really learned how to do, if you will, smart solar energy planning for our community. And recall where this came from was if we go to the Shandaken.us website, on the homepage to the far right under Climate Smart Communities, we have the ability for our townspeople to sign up for community solar. But we haven't really got any community solar in the area, and so therefore people can't sign up because none's available. And remember, community solar for folks at home are, if you maybe can't put solar on your roof or you can't put it in the yard, either because of shade or financial constraints, you still could sign up for community solar to get a break on your electric bill and be helping promote the reduction of greenhouse gases. So we thought, let's go down the path here and see what we could learn. And I think in the 4 weeks that we attended, each session was recorded, so as we were able to not make it or whatever, we were able to complete the training still. We saw what other towns did in Ulster County. We got a sense of the work that has come before us. We're probably, students 100 through 103 or something. Like, it's really been offered to several communities. And we actually now have sample reports from the other communities. And we have our own worksheet, which I'll pass around, which really helps us look at, kind of what's going on with existing plans and codes, and how does solar fit in. And we probably need a follow-up workshop so that we can understand that with maybe the zoning folks and the planning board folks. But we looked first, there was sort of a 4-step process, and the first step was assessing existing development places, and there's not that much development in our town, but places like Bel Air and the Emerson Spa, the Pine Hill Water Treatment Facility, the Phoenicia Elementary School, these were places where they've already scratched the earth and they've already done some development work. So is there any opportunity there? And we are trying to find the contacts for the Pine Hill Water Treatment Facility so that we can understand what their schedule is and timeline. We think we have the people that can connect us with those people. Then we learned how to sort of measure, basically it lets us take a look at the entire town at once from the air, like a bird's eye view. And then they taught us how to turn on different layers. For example, where's the streams? Where are the floods? Where are the highways? Where are the power lines? And power lines kind of fall into two categories, distribution power lines and transmission power lines. And if you don't have power lines near a site where you want to put solar, you can't do it because the cost will be too high. But there's an additional constraint, which is called hosting capacity, which we learned about, which basically says, how much energy can be put on the grid at point X or at point Y. And it varies throughout the town. And so if you want to do a solar project, you not only need to have a good siting, but you need to have this ability for interconnection. And we looked at a couple of sites to understand kind of what they are. We looked at opportunity areas to understand existing development. And we looked at locations that would minimize impact to valued resources. So things like farmland and agricultural districts and wetlands and floodways. Biodiversity, core forests, protected areas. The tool allows us to look at all of those sort of in concert so that we have the ability to be really kind of aware of constraints that would be helpful. And so I think our next step, and ladies, please fill in here, is to kind of go through this with a little bit more of a fine-tooth comb and spend a little more time together and say, okay, have we gone from High Mountain down to Boyceville? Have we looked at the different spots along, for example, Route 28 or County Road 47 up to Slide Mountain, or Woodland Valley Road, or Route 42, which all have power lines on them for starters. They've all got land cleared on either side of them to some extent. I think we've all seen fields that were hayed in the past and they're not hayed anymore and they're just kind of growing with prickers. So we're trying to understand, how could some of that be used? And I think the tool was helpful in us understanding kind of what the next steps are and how do we play with a full deck, not just like one idea, but all these different ideas together. What else should we say, ladies?
I know I was left with this overall sense of hope in the idea of being able to offer town board options. Like if we do the heavy lifting for them and identify areas, it feels like it's a win-win rather than kind of approaching it like, we don't know, but maybe you guys could help us find a spot. I mean, Scenic Hudson really made one of the best websites I've ever seen, and it's very user-friendly. And they walk you through how to do it, like from step A to step Z, right on the embedded site.
Wow.
And so it's just a great offering for anybody, to be able to, move forward.
Right, so let me just make sure I understand what moving forward would entail. Is moving forward finding a site where a solar farm could be built? Is that the object?
I think that's one.
Okay.
Another one would be if somebody came with a proposal that said, hey, we want to do it. We actually now have a tool to sort of evaluate their proposal. How does it impact wildlife? How does it impact core forests, et cetera, the other areas that we mentioned?
That if we get the grant for the natural resource inventory, it's going to be similar to that. And that will be something that we will develop a website for the town that anybody can use. And we'll have all those layers, but specifically for the planning and zoning boards, if we get the grant. So, thank you, all of you, for your participation and for the report. NYSERDA Community Campaigns update. The NYSERDA Community Campaigns are officially over. They are no longer offering the incentives. We were able to max out on the funding that we received. We got all the funding that we were eligible for, even though there was some fear that NYSERDA was going to run out of money before we were able to submit the paperwork. We were able to submit the paperwork in time, and at the town board meeting in December, they authorized the receipt of the final reward, which was $87,500, $50,000 for an electric vehicle, and $35,000 for municipal or heat pumps in municipal buildings. So that's I'm very pleased with our success there. mean, I honestly think it's remarkable that we raised so much money. The recycling center. Well, this is a sign that I'm gonna put up in the recycling center as soon as it stops raining. Congratulating the composters and recyclers in our town. I got some numbers from Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency. And these numbers are actually only through October, but, I mean, I can get new numbers, but not until January. But as of October, we'd collected 19.75 tons of cardboard, 15.04 tons of plastic, glass, and metal containers, 0.97 tons of mixed paper, and we have collected 2.34 tons of food scraps. So,
Starting when?
January 1st. But these actually, the numbers from the transfer station are only through October, but I mean, you know, it gives you, it's a ballpark. 19 tons of cardboard is a lot of cardboard that didn't go to the landfill.
Yeah, I'm just curious, have you researched like prior years, whether it's?
No, I haven't. I just, on a whim, I reached out to them and asked them if they had any totals, and that's what they told me. So they said, feel free to reach back in January if you want to, you know, update it. And I'm really proud of the 2.34 tons of food scraps. Yeah,
That's great.
that is good. Comprehensive plan. Well, the comprehensive plan is back on track. And I was able to attend the meeting, which was on December 9th. Karen wasn't able to attend. But she is our official liaison. So I saved this for her. It's kind of useless, not very impressive. The two planners, Elka and Katie, met with the Comprehensive Plan Committee, and they have developed a survey that they're going to try to get people in the town to fill out and, you know, tell them what kinds of things they would like to see in the comprehensive plan.
This is in January.
Yeah, in January, they're gonna have a survey. So they gave us the draft survey that they had prepared, and we all filled it out, kind of. In varying degrees of, you know, thoroughness, yeah. And, so they're gonna take the results. They wanted the survey to be able to be complete in less than 20 minutes. So we had to eliminate a couple of questions to make it a little shorter. But they're going to distribute it townwide. I'm not sure how. They will be moving ahead. So it's good news for the comprehensive plan. Natural resource inventory, we don't know about that because we're waiting to find out if we got a grant. And I think that's about it for our committees. So let's move ahead to priorities for 2025. We want to keep we want to keep moving toward the silver designation of the Climate Smart Communities program. You know, we have to get to 300 points for that. And Robert Blake circulated an email, which everybody got, about how we could do that, you know, what new initiatives, and then some things have to be updated. So I think we should work on updating the existing information, like the fleet inventory, the cooling centers. Some of this stuff is just paperwork, you know, it's not, but The climate action website has to be updated, and social media, flood elevations, flood maps. But these things are updated all the time. We just have to update the information that we give to the state, to the Climate Smart Communities program. But the new actions were the Community Climate Action Plan, which is something we started working on. And I think that's something that we need to pursue and complete, hopefully. I would like to see if we couldn't complete that before summer, you know, in the dead of winter when things aren't quite as busy around here. Natural resources inventory, we'll see what happens with that. The comprehensive plan, that's out of our hands, really. Getting energy audits on the medic building and the police building. Those are things we could help the town to achieve. Similarly, the heat pumps in the Pine Hill Library.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Two quick questions. Remind me if the Community Climate Action Plan, is that yearly?
No,
It's
That's-
every 5 years?
yeah, every 5 years. We write it, we've never written one. We did the others, but we didn't get to that one. That's the meeting, one meeting we had, a workshop meeting at my house. And we did, I think if, you know, we need to come to an agreement about what we want to work on, but if we do decide to work on that, I think it would be good to meet with Eleanor Peck and have her give us, you know, the basic talk about it. So I don't want to do all the talking here. What are some other things that people would like to do? Because if we don't like doing it, we don't do it. You know? So let's figure out what things people would like to do.
I just have a question about the cooling centers. Does that include warming centers as well?
You know, I'm not sure, but if you look in our emergency flood plan, that thing, you know, it's defined in there. I think we have warming centers and maybe we don't have designated cooling centers.
It'd be great if the warming and cooling centers could also be a power center for people who lose power.
Yeah.
Because it seems like that's a
I
big
know.
problem is
Yeah.
everybody goes out and then nobody has internet and nobody knows where to go, including visitors
I know.
in these storms. So it'd be great if the warming and cooling center could be the generator backup for people to charge their stuff, you know?
Yeah. I think it would really, well, okay, let's make a list.
I think at one point that, after Irene, the fire stations were
I think so too.
community, no places to go get Wi-Fi ability or at least power for charging devices and either get water, dry ice, whatever, if you can get there. But I don't know if that's still in existence, especially since our firehouse in Big Indian is in flux right now. I mean, it's still there.
Yeah. They're building a new one, but it's not in flux.
Well, when I've driven by my power outage, I don't seem to get a signal at their,
Wi-Fi signal?
yeah.
I don't think they have public Wi-Fi there.
Well, they did. I think after Irene, I believe there was some kind of a booster system there.
Okay, all this, let's call this fire department and communications. It fits neatly in our disaster preparation kind of information, doesn't it? Which is what we talked about.
And
Being
down
there.
there, I mentioned for a shower, when I had no power for over 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was just thinking I'd love to like get us more in communication with the Buddhist centers because they are already oriented around a spiritual belief in like community and helping, and they have like zero communication with the town, like Menla. So Menla, I have a lot of people up there. I'm friends with I'm friends with people up there, and it's like they never hear about anything with Phoenicia, so they're kind of like their own little island. And they have the possibility, they have land for solar, you know. Oh, I forgot. They have land for solar, they have tons of space, and they're kind of like heart-oriented, so I'm sure if there was a disaster, they would be willing to, you know, be power chargers for people.
Do they have generator?
Yeah, they have multiple generators. They don't have solar, they're on propane, you know.
I know the Zen Mountain Monastery has a lot of solar panels, but I don't know if they have generators. These are
Like
things to
building a
find out.
relationship with some of these bigger, you know, private companies.
You know, there was a member of the Zen Mountain Monastery who came to one of our meetings and asked to be on our mailing list and so forth. So they have reached out to us.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then the school, I'm still like all about some kids
Yeah,
getting on.
I actually, I've had a whole bunch of things go wrong in my house in the past week and a half. And I was planning on calling the schools. I never received any response from the emails I sent out to the teachers who I thought were in charge of the environmental clubs and science programs. And I'm remiss in not calling the school directly to find out, well, if it's not them, who is it, or is there a different way I should be getting in touch with them?
All right, so you'll follow up on that?
Yes, I will.
Okay. The meeting we had with Heidi Emmerich and Anna Harrod McGrew from Cornell and Heidi's from Chilton Watershed, they expressed interest in doing some disaster-related meetings for us. Heidi thought she would like to, I reached out to her, and I'll read you their email. This is from Anna, and I reached out to her, I said, she mentioned there was no funding available for putting together a workshop. So I wrote to her, and I said, you know, I think the disaster go bags are less important than some of our recommendations for planning and preparedness. We might coordinate with CCE and our fire departments and emergency services to share information and outreach. And she wrote back and said, well, we don't have funding for a full project developing resources for a website. That was the end product of their project. I can work to organize an event for the public, hopefully with assistance from emergency services and AWSMP. I'm working with the county and AWSMP in planning a flood disaster assistance workshop geared toward municipal officials. Invites to each municipality will be going out soon. We can definitely plan something. Let me chat with the folks at AWSMP and get back to you with more info. Best, Anna. So that sounds promising. And then this is what Heidi wrote. That's what I wrote to Heidi. Heidi had, what would say? She didn't just say that much. Let's see if this is it. She said, happy holidays. Yes, I'm certain AWSMP would be happy to present on something like this. We could do a little level-setting floodplain education for newcomers and recap Shandaken LFA recommendations and discuss benefits of individual property protection measures. Then we could toss to CWC, who can talk about the success of their programs and how one might apply. I'm very, very heavily committed to a handful of big projects through April. So if it's possible to plan for any time after the 1st of May, I and AWSMP can plan to take part. Just FYI, we're going to be down a couple of staff members for the first half of 2024. So I don't see us being able to commit to planning the event, but we'll share in publication outreach and can certainly come prepared to present and answer questions if you all can arrange it.
What do you feel like the goal of that event would be?
You know, I'm not familiar with what the recommendations for the, in the local flood analyses were to those people who live in those areas. But it's, how, I think part of it is creating a disaster preparedness plan for yourself and for your own property, and learning, like from the CWC, what programs are available, and what the role of fire departments is. You know, I just feel like there's not, you know, a coordinated effort here. And a lot of people who've moved to town don't know. They don't even know that we have an emergency line, or they haven't signed up, or they haven't been successful in signing up.
Which was me signing up like 10 times and never getting a text yet.
Yeah.
Catherine was the one who she's like, you know, this is happening.
Yeah. So, yes, Angel.
No, I agree with you. I think that it needs to be a bit more coordination. I mean, with like the firehouses and some other sort of stakeholders that are going to provide some kind of service in the community, because everyone sort of has, when something happens, sort of spring into their own action plan, but don't necessarily correlate that number with anything else going on. So it's like maybe disasters, and then everyone's sort of operating in silos, so I think it's a great idea to sort of have some kind of communication method that you know, sort of major trade, if I were to hear something that happens, but that's the sort of planning, or sort of put the right people in contact with one another, so that at least they can understand their roles better.
So, do we want to commit to helping to organize such a thing after May?
I think so, and I think, I have a lot of friends in Asheville, North Carolina, and the thing that they've all been saying is that, like, the most important thing was also connection to other surrounding towns, because, like, if one town didn't have water, then, like, somebody knew somebody in the adjoining town that had water,
Yeah.
and or medical supplies, or pregnancy stuff, or whatever was needed. And that was really vital. And so I wonder if we could, instead of just thinking of ourselves as Shandaken, if we could like co-host with some other Olive and some other towns, because then we can kind of get a sense of who else is nearby as well, so we're not like, no man is an island.
Well, that might be a separate event, you know, if we do one, just to bring people from Phoenicia and Pine Hill together would be a victory for us, I think, to coordinate.
I'm just curious, how were they able to communicate when all communication systems were down?
By like people going and like walking and hoofing to the people they already had a connection to. That's why I was saying like
I
the
went
connection.
to Asheville, and she's just, you know, gone through all of this and said, you know, she's out living there for whatever, 2.5 weeks, whatever,
Yeah.
3 weeks, I don't know. And that FEMA's doing nothing for them, and it's just really.
It's local words. Yeah, it's always local words. Yeah, yeah.
I mentioned also that I had reached out at the town board meeting, and I got an idea for us from Jan Jaffe. She says, "I'm sorry I'm away that day, or I'd come myself. My idea is to switch out the lamps with more appropriate light covers for historic rural hamlets. The lights we have are standard issue big city lights. We don't need that level of illumination to have safe streets. I'll try to find out more info from the Dark Sky organization."
Dark sky, that is one thing I wanted to maybe bring up, that we could become a dark sky community and make sure that all of the outdoor lighting did not shoot up, that it only goes down for whatever billboards and signage and street lighting and whatever, and that is a big draw for, there's not a lot of dark sky communities as, you know, designated, and that's,
I'll look into it and bring
Yeah,
a
sure.
report back.
just see what I can do.
Seems like something we might want to pursue.
I had written that on one of my
I see an awful lot of rental houses where the lights go on and they never, ever go off.
I know,
They're not shielded, they glow in the sky.
yeah.
And the moths, the night pollinators are just, it's awful. It's really awful.
Does anybody else have any other suggestions? I would like to just mention one thing. You know, in 2023, we did several public events in conjunction with Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency. We did, it's off.
It just doesn't
Oh. We did a composting workshop, 2 of them, and we did a recycling workshop, and then Caleb organized a repair cafe. And I wonder if you think there would be interest in repeating those. You know, we didn't do any last year, but in terms of outreach, I'd like to make sure that we have some outreach to the public.
The Repair Cafe was poppin'. Every time I went, it was like a hub,
We
right?
only did it once.
Oh, I thought we did it twice.
No, we did it at the Pine Hill Community Center.
Oh, that's right.
There was somebody who did it before in Phoenicia.
Yes, I went to Pine Hill and it was packed when I was there.
Yeah, yeah.
I would love to see, so the big push right now by the fossil fuel industry to stay alive, because they know their time is nigh, is plastics and petrochemicals. And so plastics, obviously, is a lie that's been sold about recycling, plastic recycling. So the big push of millennials and on down is like going zero waste with plastic in particular. So it's not an easy journey. I've been trying to do it for like 2 years now, and replacing everything, you know, is hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Everything comes in plastic. So I kind of follow influencers who give these hacks and tricks and things of how to do it. It would be helpful, I think, if anybody's trying to do the like no plastic journey.
Yeah.
Because I think
I
so
would
many
love to have a
people
workshop
still
on that.
think you can just recycle plastic, and it's just like it hasn't gotten out really.
Yeah.
But also eliminating plastics from your home life, whether you're avoiding the thought about recycling is just in your own home,
Exactly.
putting things in glass instead of in plastic. I mean, I've heard, I don't know how many, 15 times now, about how the black plastic is more toxic than any white plastic. So if you have one of those black plastic spatulas that you use, which I haven't had ever in my life, but nonetheless, they're extremely toxic. And you're heating them up in your pan and your food, and you're just feeding yourself poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really timely right now because of the U.S. plastics treaty that we're trying to, you know,
But New York
have.
tried to have one in the state also.
Right.
Plastics reduction.
Well, we have Beyond Plastic in New Paltz. I mean, I think maybe we could get, I don't know who to go to get a workshop on this subject. Let's try to do a little background and
I
see
mean,
what we
Beyond
can come up with.
Plastics is so organized.
Well, yeah, I'm sure we'd have some local person that could.
Maybe. We just need to find out.
But at the very least, having signs up with some infographics at our recycling center. Maybe like on the plastic, you know, all the people that are throwing in plastic. It's like I keep wanting to see something that says, we actually don't recycle plastic. Like this was a hoax that they created for no, you know.
Well, yeah. Andrew, you
I
had
have
suggestions.
3 big bites that I'd like you to consider for your agenda
Okay.
going into the future. I think that the town code, when it comes to the protection of wetlands, is extremely lacking when you consider that we are in one of the most environmentally attractive places within 150 to 200 miles of New York City. And yet there's very little environmental protection for wetlands. I was astonished in the past year to see 2 lots in town wooded lots in wooded wetlands, completely cut to the ground so houses could be put up. No restrictions, no management of runoff. When the lots were cut bare and it rained, everything just went downhill into the streams. I was pretty surprised that there was no management or control or anything required in the permitting process to have these lots cleared. The houses were built, the land still remains open and bare. All of the amphibians on those 1 or 2 acre lots have probably been killed or destroyed. It's not necessary. You can still build a nice house. You can still manage the property being environmentally sensitive, but in most cases, people don't have the knowledge and won't do this on their own unless they're given guidance or restriction based on local regulations.
Are you able to hear all right, Angel? Yes? Okay, all right, good. Okay, go ahead, Angel.
So that's one area
Yep.
that I'd like to suggest some study or work in. The next one is the Pine Hill Water District. Don't know how aware you are of what has gone on there, but there is virtually no easily accessible information on Pine Hill water, how much it is used, where it goes, how it gets there, and where it comes from. When we had the issues several weeks ago when we lost our municipal water, there was no way to fight a fire. The Bel Air Lake, which I refer to as Pine Hill Lake, had been literally drained by snowmaking efforts up at the mountain, so that if they needed to pump water out of the lake, there was nothing there. There's no water storage for the fire department. You can't expect tankers from every municipality nearby to bring in water because we're so separated, and that would still only be a drop in the bucket. I don't know who has a handle, but I think there should be some kind of a public document that tells us about the Pine Hill Water District, how it works, what equipment there is, what the pumping capacity is, what the storage capacity is, where the district meets and bounds are.
I think, Andrew,
And I've got pages and pages of other questions on that.
well, okay, that's the second item. What's the third item?
Third item was, ORDA and the environmental issues that ORDA causes or does not manage. They go anywhere from silt and sediment that comes pouring down Alton's Creek or Cathedral Brook. Last summer, they used very large helicopters to bring large towers up to the mountain for their new runs. In doing so, they forced every deer, bear, and other animal down into the hamlet with no environmental impact considered at all. For the first time in 20 years, I had deer in the summer all over the property. If I had had notice, I could have just stayed outside and said boo. But I had no idea where they were coming from until I understood what was going on at the mountain with all of the noise. ORDA should not be given a free pass, but they will take advantage until the community forces participation. and I think there are many opportunities there, including firefighting. I think the Pine Hill Fire Department is very concerned about what could or might ever happen up there if they had to respond.
Angel, you're on the fire department. Is that something you've discussed?
Well, I think there's some problems, a couple. I mean, the main one is communication, because when you're doing the work out there, you're not out with towers, you're not out with communication. And that created a problem just trying to coordinate, you know, our recovery, whatever we were trying to do there. I mean, we were all there, but there was something we were all there, we were all beyond, what's required of us to do there, you know, in terms of if we have to do a landing zone or anything like that, but, and then anytime there's a fire on there, you obviously respond and make sure that that's clear. I keep communication every tower, but that's sort of town-wide, that's a bigger problem. That has to be addressed. I think all counties are aware of it, they're working on it, and providing sometimes that they expand the range, and we have the communication among the other hamlets and the other departments. But that's as far as I'm aware. I mean, we respond almost exclusive to the mountains, so.
How often do they contact the fire department? How many calls?
A couple of ways, either we're not at alarm, or someone does contact either the police, if someone gets hurt, it's not a direct contact, that's just like the fire alarm, and then automatically connected, and then we were notified, and then we were called the action, so there's a couple of ways in which that happens.
Well, I know,
Automatic alarm,
Every time there's a medical evacuation by helicopter, that helicopter lands in the Pine Hill Fire Station, which means the fire department has to provide
yes.
communication so that the helicopter can land and it's a clear landing.
correct, but that's one of the several landings, so it depends on the severity, and there's a whole bunch of variables as well, so. But we do host, you know, a lot of this, because there might not be a good landing zone, then they opt, you know, where we are, just closer, and the ambulance goes as far up there, so. There's a couple of variables that we're looking at.
Well, I know that the town board has been concerned because the town provides services to Bel Air, especially the ambulance services. And there was no reimbursement from Bel Air, and then Robert Drake contacted ORDA, and they now provide a minimal reimbursement to the ambulance, Shandaken ambulance. I didn't, but I'm sure the fire department should be similarly compensated,
My
and
understanding is that the problem there is that when an ambulance goes up to Bel Air, the town of Shandaken loses an ambulance.
yeah, of course.
And their minimal participation puts the rest of the community in jeopardy.
Yes, I agree. And the communication with ORDA is completely lacking.
I'm curious, it would be interesting to get in touch with the town of White Base, which I guess is the other Order Mountain, to see if they've had similar issues.
They have done that, the town board did that, and they provide a lot more funding to the town. It's not Whiteface, but it's something.
Gore and Whiteface are the other mountains, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, this is, you know, I appreciate and I agree that we need to have better communication with Bel Air. And our community action plan climate action plan that we're talking about working on, they are one of the primary stakeholders in the town. That's industry. That's all, I mean, there's virtually you know, the Emerson, the Menla, the Zen Mountain Monastery, those are small compared to Bel Air.
Orta also has a certain amount of water storage capacity.
Yes,
And when there were the forest fires in and around Great Barrington, the ski resorts up there immediately notified the fire departments that their water reserves were available for firefighting. I don't know if Pine Hill ever heard from Orta.
yeah, I don't know, did you ever, no, Angel's shaking his head no. Yeah. Well, this, whether we will be successful in making contact with Bel Air, that's our goal, to try to find out, you know, about a lot of issues related to the environment up there. But the town board has been it's been very difficult for them to make any headway.
It's not the environment up there, it's the environment up there that ends up down here.
Yeah, exactly. But this is something that we have an interest in for our community action plan. Finding out what their plans are to reduce their fossil fuel use in the future.
In terms of the wetlands, I was wondering if that might work in well with your natural resources.
Yes, it will,
inventory.
it will. And that will be definitely part of our natural resources inventory.
It could also work with the climate action plan, because wetlands are a carbon sink. And there's tons of academic research backing that up.
Yeah,
There's more and more talk now about the methane that comes out of wetlands.
Which is so much more warming,
yeah.
80 times.
As far as the water district, that is a town board issue. And I know the town board just appointed a new team in Phoenicia. And they came to the meeting in December and talked about, you know, that they were just beginning to develop a structure and learn what was required, and they didn't really have a report, but they were planning on reporting in the future. And perhaps the Pine Hill Water District, I don't know even who's on it. I understand.
My understanding is that they may not have met in the past decade.
Oh, well, that's definitely a town board subject. That they need to, we have no authority over the water district. But it's good to know that,
We have no authority over it.
yeah, we have no authority, period.
We're an advisory council.
Yeah, yeah.
We have science on our side, though.
It's true. We have energy too.
We have energy, yeah.
Yeah.
And we have money. We seem to churn it out.
Yeah.
I think we could continue in terms of other suggestions.
Yeah.
As we started to say on our solar report here, we could do a workshop on community solar. And we could combine that with clean heating and cooling to help people understand, you know, like so much solar is needed in order to be able to heat the houses in the town or heat your house. And here's your costs if you're using oil or wood versus if you're putting in solar, heat pumps versus not.
So what you're talking about is a clean energy
Yeah.
workshop.
Yeah,
Okay.
sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah, and community solar would be a component,
Yes.
one of several.
Yep, heating and cooling could be another, yeah.
Yeah, heating, cooling, and, yeah. I'm just making a list,
Yep.
so,
Well, I think a replication of our last community, dual community meeting workshop with Olive would be a really good thing to do, where we had the event at the interpretive center. I think to repeat that as maybe an annual thing, but at least this year, to try and organize something like that again with Olive, because I think it'd be very successful.
It was good last year, this year, yeah. It made connections.
well, I think that it's good for us to get to know other CACs
Yes.
and to learn from them. And they reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to do that. Now, that was all part of the NYSERDA campaign, you know. It was not just for the public to learn more about
Mm-hmm.
heating and cooling. So, maybe, you know, I can't remember what night they meet, but maybe we should go to one of their meetings. I'll
yes.
find out when they meet.
Would you mind copying and pasting Robert Drake's email for the climate smart action plan on the Slack, so it's easily accessible?
I would love to do that if I knew how. Let me talk about that before I go home.
Or send me an email again, just so I don't have to switch to
Yeah, okay.
thousands of emails.
Well, shall I reply to Anna and Heidi and say that we are willing to host a workshop? People willing to work on that with me? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of combo things.
Yeah.
You know, like if we're doing a clean energy thing anyway, might as well, you know, like we could combine a few different ideas into something and then get a bigger audience and plan heavily for it. Rather than a bunch of small ones that are less attended.
Yeah. What about more recycling or workshops with Ulster Resource Recovery? Any interest there?
What was the question?
Is there interest in having more workshops, public workshops with Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency? On composting or whatever else they, shall I find out what they have?
Yeah, I mean, I only went to one of them, and it seemed fairly well attended.
We had 10 to 15 people.
Yeah, I said fairly.
Yeah.
I don't know if like middle of the weekday afternoon is the ideal time, because who can get
There
there?
is no ideal time.
Well, a weekend is maybe better, even though I work on weekends, but,
Well, it's
it's
partly,
like 1 o'clock on a Thursday, or something it was, and
partly it is, you know, we were doing it at the Pine Hill Community Center. We have to find a time when they're
sure.
and not already hosting something. They're pretty busy on the weekends there.
Right, but we could use the interpreter since we're outdoors on a, I know that there's a fee, but maybe they waive their fee, or maybe the fee is not exorbitant. Or we can have it at the big Indian Park. They have a
Well,
fee.
why don't I see what workshops are available, and then we'll figure out the planning for the town.
It looks like the Olive CAC is meeting tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
That's right, it's the third Thursday. Oh, no, tomorrow's Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday, oh, yeah. Third Thursday is the library board, I'm all mixed up.
So 7 to 8 p.m. So it's on a Tuesday, and assumably the third Tuesday of every month.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just looking at their slightly vague website.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think what we've kind of come up with is create a schedule for the community action plan, climate action plan, and contact Heidi and Anna and say, yes, we want to proceed with the workshop. And then after that workshop, I think we'll have a little better knowledge if we want to have another workshop with the fire companies or, you know. Yeah, I think we do need to become a little more connected to the fire companies and see what services they're able and willing to provide.
Our discussion about having a disaster preparedness workshop, which is an ideal suggestion, isn't that also more of a town board thought
No.
process? I mean,
It's part of the climate smart communities.
Right.
That's within our jurisdiction here. That's on the list. Anything else? Anybody wants to Any other suggestions? You're gonna look up dark sky and we'll see what emerges as we, come into January. I think, you know, if we have a workshop, we need to have a meeting with Eleanor, which would be a Zoom meeting. And we need to then have some more workshops to work on our climate action, community climate action plan. I'll talk to Eleanor and see what she can do. Can people generally attend during the week, during her working hours? Eleanor Peck? Okay.
Depends on what time, but
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe that's enough for tonight. To get started on the next year.
I'm excited about this action plan.
Good.
Yeah, I like the list that Robert sent. I just always have to dig through my email to find it.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
All
it's
right.
all good stuff.
So if there's no further discussion, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Angel. Thank you for attending on Zoom, both of you.
I think one thing that's on Robert's list about social media, I once again put on Facebook